I'm going to attempt surviving 100 days in one of Ark's most hardest mods, the Hunted. In this mod, you start off with a level 1 dino, and that you need to get from hatching eggs. Those eggs you need to get from heavily guarded nests. Can I go on to defeat both of Ark's guardians? Well, starting out on the beach, I was left with not much options. Scavenging for whatever scraps I could find, trying to equip myself with the basic tools I needed for survival. I then came across something strange. I didn't know what to make of it, but like I was quite anxious. And so I began running like my life depended on it. With my stamina depleting rather quickly, I had no other option than to stand my ground and fight to the death. I came out on top of this fight and snagged a couple of much needed resources. I then swam across to a little island and looked homely and safe, and so I took the rest of the day getting the resources needed to set up camp. I needed this as well. It keeps my base safe from getting raided. Almost lost my life for this. There was not much going on at my little island, so I had to swim across to Blue Abbey. There I spotted a dodo nest, plus a few alpha raptors nearby. Quite risky, but I had to go for it. Unfortunately, I had to take out Mama Dodo. Looting the nest, I was able to grab some feathers and a fertilized egg. Nice! Well, again, I didn't know if these little screeps were a danger to me or not. I just didn't want to leave anything to chance. Back at base, I put some meat on the grill and knew the only way I could level up faster was to craft a whole lot of things. So I focused on upgrading my base to wood tier. Day 3 with my base upgraded to wood, my next objective was to get some hide, as I needed that to build a raft. Luckily, just on the other side, there was some easy pickings. Also, I thought things weren't really working out for us. Time for a new strategy, I'd say. A carbon emis. This should do the trick. Once down, I was able to get some scaled hide. Yeah. We got some bowlers, baby! From there, it was back to them pork chops, taking down the Phiomias that I needed for the hide. And peeps! I have the freaking raft! That afternoon, I spent my time building a little base on the raft. Day 4 began with me receiving juicy loot from a green drop, just what the doctor ordered. Then sailed out in search for an opportunity to give me the upper hand. That's when I spotted out in the distance a few pteranodons. And as I got closer, it was quite clear I had hit the freaking jackpot. It was a terra nesting ground. Just how was I going to do this? Oh well, it wouldn't hurt to try, right? Wrong! You see, I freaking had Mama Terra on my tail. I tried my best to shake her off, but nothing worked. She was just destroying my raft. I needed to come up with something ASAP. That's when I came up with this crazy idea. Whoa! What's that? What's what? That! Oh, you mean that. Well, peeps, that's today's sponsor, Goat Games, bringing you an epic hero collector fantasy RPG, Bloodline, Heroes of Lithus, free to play on both Android and iOS. With its intriguing storyline and visually stunning 3D art style, Bloodline gives you the ability to build your kingdom and collect champions to defend it and rule the world. If you haven't yet checked out Bloodline, now is the perfect time to do so, because it just received one of the biggest updates ever, a mind-blowing newly added hybrid system. With this hybrid system, you have the freedom to customize your champions through their unique marriage system, creating over 800 new hybrids between any two bloodlines, inheriting their traits, talents, and their unique appearance. The possibilities are endless, as there are new fantasy creatures added every month. But wait, there's more! Starting this 27th of October, a new vampire clan will be making its appearance in-game as a brand new lineage of your bloodline this Halloween. These Wraith Lords were cursed by the Dark Ritual that has given them the ability to not only nuke your enemy, but also sustain themselves on the battlefield during longer fights. Just by participating in the Halloween event, you will be able to grab one of these accursed champions for free on the 7th day. Here's an even sweeter deal. Scan the QR code on the screen or use the link in my description to get a special starter pack worth $20. And this includes 10 energy potions, 100,000 gold, and 100 diamonds. Download and try Bloodline today for free. All I needed was just one great bowler throw. Just one, and I could live to see another day. And boom! Just like that, I got the freaking script, mate. The rest Well, that was history. Once that was taken care of, I sailed back to the nest, scoring a fertilized pteranodon egg. Day 5, I had enough resources to craft a full set of hide armor, and then went on gathering some of the resources that I needed to get a few things for base: a preserving bin, water and pestle, a bed, and worked on getting a forge. I also thought it was a good idea to turn my raft into a mobile base. Day 6, I set my sights on getting some metal. I knew of a spot in which I could acquire this sort of resource. The path leading up to it, however, felt a bit menacing. I had to proceed with caution and gradually make my way up to the beauty spot. Got a bag full of metal and some crystal, swiftly making my way back to the raft. Later on, I was able to craft a smithy and got myself some metal tools. Equipped with metal tools, I began the process of upgrading my raft to stone tier. Oh, hi there. Guess what? I finally got to craft the ember nest. This was needed to incubate small dinos, and so I placed my egg to incubate and waited for it to hatch. Once fully matured, I noticed that it had a feather counter. Interesting. It also got me thinking if that dodo nest had more fertilized eggs. Yeah, you guessed it. I went back to check the dodo nests. Unlucky dude. I realized I had to venture out further if I wanted to progress. So on day 9, I sailed beyond the safety of my little sanctuary and came across another dodo nest. Yeah, so like, I had to, you know. I'm sorry, dodo mama. With that out of the way, I was able to obtain another fertilized egg and a few more feathers. Considering I was near Skull Island and I knew it had some valuable resources, I decided to give it a little look-see. Fortunately, all was good, so I piled up on a bunch of resources and took it back to base. Day 10, I started out hatching the dodo eggs that I got the previous day. It then dawned upon me that I could make some kibble. This could be just the break I needed. I speedily went out getting the resources needed, but then I realized I needed chitin. WTF! Oh, alright. The search for chitin begins. I searched and searched, and all I could come up with was this Doedicurus. Freaking 2k HP worth? Yeah. Good luck, Cams. Well, I stuck to it. And after several in-game hours and 1,000 spears later, guess what? No freaking chitin! Jeez. Day 11, the quest for chitin continues. I thought it would be a good idea to travel to the half-dead island, as I might find creatures that could give us the chitin we needed. On my way to the island, I came across a little human settlement, and seeing as I didn't have much options, I stopped and requested for some help. Oi! You there! I don't suppose you guys have chitin lying around, eh? I thought so. Well then, I best get on my way. Toodles! Reaching Half-Dead Island, it soon became apparent that it was going to be quite impossible to set foot on it. Just as I was about to give up all hope, I spotted another tiny island. And this, peeps, was the freaking shiznit, as it was bountiful with all of that good stuff. Day 12, I camped out at this little island, and at sunrise I began exploring, trying to unlock the treasures of this mysterious land. Sure enough, we struck gold with this one, peeps, as I was able to grab some cactus sap that was needed for the next incubating nest. And just like Ragnarok, there were these glorious loot crates, showering us with gifts of plenty. If that wasn't enough, I spotted some easy silica pearl picking. Oh wait! Back at base with all of that juicy loot, I had the resources to craft my next incubating nest. I just had one problem. There wasn't enough space. So I went on extending my base, making sure I had enough space and the ability to protect my hatchlings. Later on that day, I proceeded to hatch the pteranodon egg, closely keeping an eye on it, as it was my only hope of reaching the skies. Oh! Day 14 was spent collecting the resources needed for my pteranodon saddle, as it needed a few special items. Luckily, I remembered seeing some parasaurs at Blue Obby the other day and thought a nest would be close by. It's what was needed, and presto! I was in luck. I had to fend off some compies, of course, but I was better prepared this time around, so it was like not much effort, really. And then stepped up to claim my prize: eaten cocoa drupes and a fertilized parasaur egg. I also needed to take out a baryonyx. Oh boy, I wasn't really up for that, but it had to be done. I gave it my all and eventually got its HP low enough to where it started fleeing. Darn it! Yep, I had to chase after it. The thing is, it regained some of its HP and started running towards me. I almost freaking pooped myself. I had no choice but to fight back, sending arrows left, right, and center before giving it its final blow. Cams was the victor that day, claiming the Baryonyx claw as a trophy. Day 15, I needed to get some crop plots going to grow my cocoa droop seed, so I went to get the resources to get that done. I also had to complete the base extension, and for that had to get a whole lot of stone, which I was able to get some from Blue Robbie, checked up on a blue drop, and then continued working on my base. Finally being able to craft a Pteranodon saddle, I was actually excited to try it out. Yeah, that's not happening anytime soon. Rip! Heartbroken by this result, I opted to hang my head in shame. Nah, man. I went on breeding and hatching dodo eggs for my feather farm and for some kibble. Day 17. Well, you see, I wanted to try and tame an NPC. So I sailed to their island and looked for a vantage point. As soon as I was in a good position, I waited for one to separate from their tribe. It was almost an ideal attack. Unfortunately, there were way too many NPCs around, so I had to retreat. Although, I did find another opportunity. You see, there was this box just lying there. Well, what good use would this be to them? Like, really? So I had to take it and run. See ya! After that, I decided to go ahead and collect some metal. Day 18, I worked on getting some base defenses, popped in a compost bin, and went on hatching my little parasaur. Got it its saddle too. Day 19 is the day when I stepped it up a notch. I got myself a set of flak armor, and now that I could actually ride a dino, I took Miles out to level him up. While doing so, I saw a trilobite. Yes! Finally, some freaking chitin! With that in mind, I ran straight to base to cook up some kibble. Considering that there was an artifact underwater, and now being able to make some kibble, I decided it was best to get a sea creature. I already had some scuba gear, so the easiest tame I could find were ichthyes. Fortunately, they could eat basic kibble. And boom! Just like that, 2 ichthyes were tamed within a couple of minutes. Day 21, I focused on extending my base even further to accommodate the new additions into my tribe. Dynagate should do the trick, just getting resources was a bit of a pain. However, I eventually got it done and then went ahead with raising my ichthy. I thought I could get it its saddle, but again, it needed freaking chitin. I'm sure I can grab some from you, buddy. Over at Blue Robbie, while looking for something that could potentially give us chitin, I spotted this nest. I had no time to think, just one thing was on my mind. Loot and run, Cams! Phew, that was close. Continuing my search, I found a few jug bugs. These would surely do the trick, yeah? Yeah, let's go! Day 23 started out with me hatching my Diplo egg. At the time, I didn't think much of it and thought it would be good for just kibble, if it was female. Setting it aside to mature with a bag full of berries, I went on looking for more feathers. Dodos weren't cutting it, so I tried going after a Pelagonus. That too never looked like it was going to work, so I ditched that idea. Later that day, I discovered a Pelagonus nesting area. The perfect opportunity to take one out. So out came the boulders, and I managed to pin one down. Within a few seconds, my arrows took it out, claiming some krill hide and a whole lot of freaking feathers. Darn dillos! Well, I guess it's your turn. Nighty-night! Oh yeah, I did say it was a Pelagonus nesting ground. Fertilized egg acquired. I finally had the resources to craft an ichthy saddle. I was also able to craft a fabricator and a soul terminal. Then opted to take out my ichthy Dory to level up. Yeah, that didn't go according to plan. You see, there was a freaking huge megalodon near our base, and no way was my ichthy going to win that battle. I had to retreat back to safety and wait it out, deciding to hatch my Pelagonus egg in the meantime. Round 2 was even crazier. just barely making it to safety while having saber-toothed salmons chomping on the tail of my ichthys. Talk about close calls, peeps. That was insane. Day 25. Pretty fast one this is. Off to Skull Island for that metal grind. In the wee hours on the morning of day 26, I saw a red drop over at Blue Obby. I was quite curious, and the fact that I could level up Terry meant that I could fly. I had to be very cautious though, as there were a few alpha raptors nearby. Luckily, it spawned close to a rock, so I could position myself to a point where the raptor didn't take notice of me, grabbing what was in the drop and leaving the area as soon as I could. Later that day, I began collecting the resources needed to finish off my base in stone. I had fixed the problem of the game not allowing me to build near a loot drop spawn, worked on a little base extension, and added more wooden spikes in the mix, just for that little extra protection, completing the build on day 27. Day 28, I sailed off to the Redwoods to see what it could offer me. Straight away spotting some megatheriums and a theory. Not just any theory, but a mama theory. So I knew a nest had to be close by. Alas, it was close to the shore too. Now, I just needed to kite mama theory and those pesky megatheriums away, and also without hurting myself. So I took it nice and slow, working with the theory first and then taking some of those megatheriums for a swim out to sea. Finally, claiming my prize, a fertilized theory egg. Oh yeah. Alrighty, so in order to hatch the next tier of eggs, I needed to craft a living nest. For that, I would need all these bits and bobs. I knew exactly what to do. I had to hit down some of those beaver dams. It was a bit risky, but I mean, no risk, no reward, right? I just had to strike at the opportune moment, just like that, and then take out the rest of those creeps. So I continued searching for more dams, looting some of the easier ones I could find. However, it was getting a bit dark, making it quite difficult to see, deciding it would be a better option to call it a night, and looked for a safe place to camp. Day 30, I found myself in the midst of the motherlode of all crystals. You guys know what we can get from them, huh? That's right, mushrooms! I harvested as much as I could find, always making sure that my surroundings were clear, eventually getting all the shrooms I needed for that living nest. But the day wasn't over, because whilst I was out the previous day, I spotted this, an RG freaking nesting ground, peeps! Luckily, the RGs weren't around, so I quickly snuck up to the nest and grabbed the fertilized egg, and some gems too, just before the mother RG could arrive. So I had to get my butt out of there as fast as I could. Darn it. You know that darn living nest? Turns out you need angler gel to get it going. Just great. Well, looks like it's going to be deep sea diving today, peeps. So off I went with my little raft. Just on the other side of Blue Obby, I knew we could potentially find some anglers. Fortunately, Dory gained a whole lot of levels, so I hopped on Dory for the rest of the way. Not long after, I was in luck. There were a few anglers in sight. I knew Dory wasn't at all strong enough to fight them, so I had to use my crossbow. After a couple of tries, I got one down, but noticed we weren't alone. Plizzies, megalodons, and a whole lot of danger was all around us. I had to act quick to grab the gel needed. I wasn't done though, as I spotted another low-level angler and wanted more gel, so I went after it, shooting the angler as fast as I could before taking it out close to a Moser. I couldn't leave after all I did, so I just had to go for it and hoped that I would go unnoticed. Yeah, let's just say I'm done for today. See ya! Ah yes, day 32. Well, after yesterday's craziness, I just wanted to chill, remaining back at base and hatching my RG and theory. I also went about naming them Pidgey and Wolverine, keeping a close eye on them as they matured. Remember when I said that I was probably going to use the Diplo for kibble? I was so wrong, because on day 33, I found a Diplo saddle in one of the drops. So I decided to take it out and get it some levels by farming some of the vegetation back at base. Boy oh boy, did this take me by surprise. Its stats looked amazing, so much so that I took Pookie over to Blue Obby and wrecked the other Diplos in the area, scoring some much needed resources as a result. It was freaking OP, man. Day 34. I have found my secret weapon, and no one would have thought so. With Pookie's ascended saddle and its sweet stats, I decided to start farming resources for some of the saddles that I needed. Taking out a Spino with ease and claiming its trophy, the sail. Stomping on a darn Sarco that attacks me out of nowhere. And lastly, trampled a Stego for its armored plates. Day 35, back at the Redwoods. With some kibble in hand, I needed to tame a few sheep for their wool. There were many nasties in the area, but quite unfortunate for them, however, as I had Pookie with me. So I dusted the threats within a blink of an eye and proceeded to tame a few sheep. The best part of this trip was that I came across a Megalosaurus and Giga Nest. What a thing! Well, I guess more fertilized eggs for me. Day 36, I remained back at base and did a few things here and there, hatching the Megalosaurus egg as I thought it would be a good mount for caving, also tending to my sheep as they were maturing, and then went ahead with working on my crops. Day 37 started off with me checking out a yellow drop, and then sailing off to the Redwoods to get some honey for kibble. At first I went with trying to tame a giant bee, but quickly realizing I didn't have the power to do that amount of crazy damage. Changing my strategy, I opted to gather some honey using grapples, just forgetting one crucial thing. These bees, they fight back, and without thinking, well, yeah, I messed up. RIP! Learning from my mistakes, I tried to do things smarter this time around. Ah, that's better, Kamsi. Day 38, while out loot hunting, I spotted a cinema crops. Having some chitin on me, I was like, why not tame it? Good thing too, as it was level 1, so it made for a quick tame. Oh yeah, and that loot I got? Well, take a look at this. Looks good, huh? Anyways, I was in search for an oviraptor, remembering seeing some at Blue Obby. That's the island I chose to go to. And presto, I struck gold once again. I had to work fast and stay on my guard as those alpha raptors were still around. Thankfully, we made it out unharmed. For the rest of the day, I focused on hatching and raising the oviraptor. On day 39, I made for an early start towards the Redwoods. I needed all the time I could get as I needed to find a thyla for caving. Once at the Redwoods, the search began, and I searched and searched and searched and searched some more, finally spotting a juvenile that I could tame with the kibble I had. But of course, this is Ark, and nothing is as easy as it seems. The thyla wouldn't allow me to tame it as it was spooked by my pteranodon. Oh well, I guess I had to wait. So I did, and at last, within a couple of minutes, I spotted a window of opportunity, and that's when I ran up to it and fed it the kibble it needed, finally taming the Thylacoleo. Day 40-41 was spent raising my thyla and then breeding the sheep that I had, as I wasn't getting nearly enough of the wool that I needed. Whilst out and about, I spotted a huge nesting area with loads of different dinos. Luckily, most of them dinos were distracted, so I just had to kite the few that were left off of the edge. Little screeps. In my excitement of finding this area, I took the egg of a Styracosaurus instead of the Yankee. Yeah, back at base, I realized something wasn't right. I had to return to the nesting grounds and get the right egg this time around. Day 43, I had enough resources to get a thyla saddle and then spent the rest of the day leveling it up. Also, I went ahead and tamed an otter. Turns out that those otters earlier on in the game, well, they didn't really wanted to attack me. They just wanted food. Who knew? So, visiting the huge nesting ground the other day, I noticed a Rex in a distance, it also being a Mama Rex. Now, that could mean one thing, that there was a nest nearby. I just had to go back and have a look. When I arrived at the nesting ground, well, you see, Mama Rex didn't look like she really enjoyed our company. So I decided to rush her with Claw. Yeah, that was a bad idea. The Rex stunned me off of my thyla, so I ran for my life, trying to whistle Claw to me. Fortunately, all went well, and I was able to take out Mama Rex and claim its trophy. Now, just to find its nest. Where could it be? So I searched and searched, and then beat up some creatures that annoyed me, and then searched some more, until I freaking found it! A freaking Rex egg, baby! Oh yeah, it's game time! Like, I shouldn't even be speaking about this day. You guys should already know, right? Ah, yeah. The beauty of shearing my sheep. So satisfying. I'm kidding. I started hatching and raising my Rex, of course. Day 46 to 48 was spent collecting resources that I needed for saddles. I mean, there was so many things to do just to get a freaking saddle. Like taking out this Alpha Raptor. Who knew? I needed this for a saddle. Then I had to take down a few Spinos for shag green. But I didn't mind that, as I got some levels for my Argy. Not to mention going after some Araneos for their spider silk. Though there was a plus side to all of this. You see, I needed black pearls too. Huh? Black pearls? Yeah! You remember the spots I got pearls from the other day? Well, guess what? Further up, I freaking spotted some black pearls. How amazing is that? Sweet! Day 49. Oh yeah! Another trip to Skull Island for that juicy metal. Peeps! It is day 50 and it was one of the best days ever as I spotted an Alpha Megalodon. And my friends, that's what was needed for a Rex saddle. Well, its trophy, of course. The problem was it was in water and I didn't have a strong water tame. So I decided to go in with Clawtooth, giving it all we had, slashing and biting and clawing the Meg as often as I could, before finally taking out the Meg and claiming my prize. Rex saddle, here I come. Jeez, peeps, trying to harvest the Megalodon's trophy and its goodies took like forever. Oh yeah, I was stuck too, so I had to come up with a plan ASAP. Luckily, I had my Diplo with me, so I just transferred all the stuff I had in my inventory and shoved it over to Pookie. Thanks, Pookie. I'ma just craft a couple of storage boxes, leave the shag green here for a bit. With not much daylight left, I decided to visit the pearl area to see if those black pearls respawned. And guess what, peeps? They did! I'm freaking sorted for them saddles, man. Day 52, I set out looking for some nests. I wanted an Iguanodon for its ability to seed things, and a few Deinonychus, as I wanted them as part of my boss army. Reaching the swamp, I was alerted to a Deinonychus nesting area. Fortunately, it was close to the edge of a cliff. All I had to do was kite all of them scribs over and take out the few that were left behind, grabbing my Deinonychus egg and a Tropeo egg that was close by, before moving over to another Deinonychus nest, just on the other side. This time, there was a Spino nest coupled together. I had to grab both of these fertilized eggs, although Mama Spino wasn't too happy about that. While on my way back to base, I found an Iguanodon nest. I grabbed that egg too. Yeah, you guys should know what was going to happen. Yeah? Well, I had some eggs to hatch. That's what I did. Screams. Oh, and I found this saddle in a drop. Nice! Day 54, it was time to do my first cave. The only thing I did fear was those spitting titanoboas. If they got you, it was pretty much nighty-night for you. That's why I needed those seeds for a whole lot of stems. Fair enough to say that this cave was quite easy. Reaching the artifact of the hunter without breaking a sweat, and then farmed some spider silk whilst I was there. It was day 55 and I could finally craft a Rex saddle. Oh yeah! It was time to unleash the beast on a squadron of trees. Huh? Well, no one really knows how powerful leveling up with these trees can be, especially in this situation. I mean, look at this. 20 freaking levels! Just like that. Oh, but it wasn't over just yet. You see, I spotted an Alpha Rex the previous day, and I needed its trophy for more Rex saddles. Knowing this, we had to fight to the death. Yeah! Well, extracting its trophy on the other hand, that was another challenge, as it took a whole lot of time. In fact, it took the whole night. Day 56 to 57, I returned back to base and began breeding my Deinonychus, the first half of my boss army. Done with my Deinonychus, I went out to get some resources to craft an Inde forge. But as I arrived at the beaver dams, I came across a few Rexes, and I was like, could this be? Could another Rex nest be nearby? I had to take a closer look. Calling forth Apex, which totally annihilated everything in its path, gave me the opportunity to investigate further. Holy smokes! I couldn't believe it! It was there! Another Rex nest! Oh man, we're in the game now, son! Also, I didn't forget that cementing paste I needed. After getting all of those stuff, I went straight back to base to hatch my Rex egg, hoping that it would be a male, because that's what I really needed. It was off to the next artifact location, somewhere in the middle of the ocean. I must admit that this took longer than expected due to the fact that I got lost. Yeah, I know. Big scream. But eventually finding my way to where the artifact of the brute stood. Yes, 2 down, peeps. 2 down. Day 60 to 63, I decided to expand my base and beef up security. As you may know, I was quite fond of those fence builds, and I had a rather interesting idea. I also had a side quest, needing the resources to actually craft the Indie Forge this time around. Well, you see, I needed the forge as I was planning to use a whole lot of metal. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fort Knox. Quite a beauty, isn't it? For the rest of day 63, right up until day 65, I focused solely on breeding, hatching, and then raising my Rexes. The next 2 days were spent collecting resources for my Deinonychus saddles. I needed a whole lot of Argentavis talons, and the best place to get them was by the half-dead island, taking out just about every RJ in sight and then collecting their talons. I also was able to spot another Alpha Rex. Oh yeah, you know what it is. More Rex saddles, peeps. Day 68. I mean, I was already halfway there, so like, I just went for it. And into the depths I went of yet another cave for an artifact. Luckily, this cave was large enough for a Rex, so nothing really attacked me, reaching the artifact of the massive in no time, and then deciding to farm up some spider silk while I was in the area. Day 69, returning to base, I began releasing my dinos from their soul vault, leveling them up and leaving them out to rest and recover. For the rest of the day, I focused on crafting saddles for my Deinonychus, and I had just enough resources for another Rex saddle. Day 70, I set out for another artifact. This one was a bit scary as I had to use my Thyla. I tried speedrunning this cave in order to dodge those pesky Titanoboas. Unfortunately, we weren't quick enough and almost fell prey to a bunch of nasties. If it wasn't for those stims, I'm pretty sure things would have been a whole lot worse. Thankfully, we made it to the jumping puzzle. I noticed Thylas couldn't climb in this mod. But not to worry, I had grapples. Well, that seemed to work. Artifact of the pack acquired. Oh yeah, peeps. Whilst on my way back to base, I spotted another Alpha Rex. Jeez! This is freaking insane! More Rex saddles, baby! Day 72. Well, you see, I spotted a quits in my space. And I was like, nah, I wasn't having any of this. The quits had to go. So I swiftly made my way to the quits and took it out with my RJ. With that out of the way, I could go on with the day's work. Well, I guess I need to go and get more metal. Let's go. Day 73. I went out gathering more resources. I needed those for crafting a chemistry bench. And seeing as I didn't have enough for an indie cooker, I went with setting up a Jenny for my base and hooking myself up with some electricity. Day 74. Now having the resources for the indie cooker, I was able to craft it and worked on some piping. I then decided to hatch and raise my Tropeo. Also, taking out yet another Alpha Raptor for its trophy. Day 75. Oh wait! I was flying, and in style, I decided to take a trip to the snow with my Tropeo in order to look for a UT nest. Yeah, let's just say, after what seems like hours of searching, I came out empty-handed. However, I did manage to find another Alpha Rex. I ain't complaining, although I still have to take it out, and then spend hours extracting its trophy. Oh well, all in a day's work. Just in case I couldn't get the saddles for all of my Rexes, I had to come up with a backup plan, and so I was off to the redwoods for some Megatheriums. The search took for what seemed like an eternity, as I couldn't find any baby Megatheriums. I was able to spot them adults, but no babies. It got me thinking, were they feeding on their young? However, I did get lucky, finding a juvenile with an adult, and so I had to move fast to take out the bigger Megatherium, giving me the time and space to tame the baby Mega safely. And also, honey supplies were low, so I had to go and stock up on some. With the honey I grabbed the previous day, I was able to cook up more exceptional kibble. So on day 77, I was back at the redwoods looking for Megatherium baby number 2, a mate for the Megatherium we tamed the previous day. And presto, we were in luck and tamed baby number 2. And so on day 78 to 80, I began breeding and raising the Megatherium army. Oh yeah. But you see, the grind was not over, peeps. I needed more saddles for all of those Megatheriums. And on days 81 to 82, I focused on collecting some of those resources needed, taking out these spinos for their sails, and also I needed a whole lot of armored plates. It's a good thing I found this guy. I mean, just look at this. So much of the good stuff. Well, you see, those armored plates were quite a load, so I had to make multiple trips back and forth to get them at base, where I could start crafting those Megatherium saddles I needed. Day 84 to 86, once equipping all of my Megatheriums with saddles, it was time to level them up, getting those initial levels from beating up some trees, and then moving up to more worthy opponents, Argies, Rexes, and surprisingly, Gigas too. We still had more to do, peeps, and it was freaking day 87. Right, let's get a move on, Cams. Well, I needed to get the last 2 artifacts from the snow cave. Thankfully, I had everything I needed for an easy cave dive. Nothing really bothered me once I took out my Rex, getting to the artifact of the Clever and then to the artifact of the Devourer in record time too. On my way back to base the previous day, this appeared. Another freaking Alpha Rex, peeps. So I camped nearby, waiting for daylight to take on the Alpha Rex. Man, we had some OP dinos, so yeah. We took down those Rex in no time, grabbing yet another trophy. With all of these Rex saddles, seems like the Ark Guardians are going down, son. Day 89, deciding to just chill a bit from all that grindy stuff, I went out hunting for some loot drops. Going for just about anything that would help, but also looking for more red drops as I needed those alpha implants for my Rex saddles. Day 90 to 92, well, it was back to caving. But this time, not for artifacts, but for spider silk, as I needed tons of those for my Rex saddles. Day 93 and 94. These were by far the most luckiest days of my life, as I was able to spot 2 more Alpha Rexes on Volcano Island, dedicating each of these days and taking out those Alpha Rexes. And well, extracting those trophies, that's what took the most time. But it was all good, as I was able to complete the trophies needed for all of my Rex saddles. Day 95 to 96. It was almost time to party. A few more things to get done before the big day though, so I used these days to level up the rest of my Rexes just by taking out everything in sight. Day 97. I just chilled back at base, making sure to rest my dinos and then getting them into tip-top shape for the ultimate fight. Day 98 to 99. Last minute preps were on the go, getting everything I needed for the boss fight, and it was time to move the army I selected over to Blue Arby. Yeah, let's go! Day 100, peeps! Just one thing before we go. With my experience of the last boss fight I did on the center map, I realized my army was way too OP, so I had to cut it down. I took most of my Megatheriums and just 3 or 4 Rexes for support. I also gave a stack of meat to each of my dinos to help them throughout the fight. And then it was time to face the Ark Guardians. I was still a bit anxious though, as I never tried boss fights with Megatheriums before. Anyways, it didn't really matter at this point, as we were about to face off against the Megapithecus, and so I set my army into attack mode. The Megas went in first and took on the Megapithecus head on, doing some decent amount of damage to it. However, it wasn't enough, and I started to freak out a bit, as I didn't know how long they would last. I really needed to get the rest of the crew to join the fight. At this point, I started pressing all types of buttons, trying to command my army to attack. Bringing in the rest of the army into the battlefield made quick work of the Megapithecus. Well, as for the Brute Mother, I had some OP freaking Megatheriums, and they just shredded her. And that was it, peeps. Ark Guardians destroyed.